You're standing at the edge. Not a cliff, not a forest, open water. Flat, gray, and endless. You have no map, no compass, nothing to tell you what's out there. The horizon is just a wall, and you're considering crossing it in a hollowed log with your children. No one has ever done this. No other species has ever tried. The water is more than 50 miles wide. The currents are strong, the channel is deep. There's nothing visible on the other side. Nothing anyone has ever seen or reported back about. You push off anyway. This is 65,000 years ago. Somewhere along the coast of Southeast Asia, a group of early humans looked at open ocean and made a decision. They crossed it. And what came after that changed every landmass, every ecosystem, every large animal on the planet. Think about what that actually means. These people had no concept of what lay beyond the water. No scouts had gone ahead. No one had come back with a report. They were heading toward nothing. Pure unknown. And the crossing into Australia wasn't a short trip. It wasn't a river ford. Even at the lowest sea levels during the last ice age, the water gap between the Asian landmass and Australia never fully closed. Researchers have confirmed this. Open ocean always remained. The crossing required deliberate, multi-day navigation. These weren't people who stumbled across a land bridge. They built watercraft. They read currents. They tracked something. Sun angles, star positions, wave patterns. They knew they were going somewhere, even if they had no idea what was there. They didn't arrive empty-handed. By 65,000 years ago, humans were already sophisticated. Stone tools refined over tens of thousands of years. Fire. Language capable of complex planning. Preserved food. Carried water. The Madjedbebi rock shelter in northern Australia rewrote the timeline when researchers analyzed it closely. Ochre grinding stones. Ground-edge axes. Reflective pigment materials. These weren't people barely hanging on. They were organized, prepared. They packed what they needed and crossed an ocean on purpose. That single fact separates them from every other creature that has ever existed. So what pushed them? Resources, probably. Groups expanding beyond what a local region could sustain. Or something harder to define. Curiosity. Humans have always moved toward the horizon. Not the way a bird migrates, locked into instinct. Something more deliberate, a choice. Researchers call it behavioral modernity. The moment the human brain stopped just reacting and started projecting, planning for futures that hadn't happened, imagining lands no one had seen, and then going there. No other species does this. A chimpanzee doesn't look at open ocean and decide to find out what's on the other side. We did. Repeatedly. Compulsively. Across every barrier the planet put in front of us. That drive is an instinct. It's something evolution stumbled into once, and only once. It wasn't just ocean. The most extreme move early humans ever made was into the Arctic. By 45,000 years ago, people were living above the Arctic Circle in Siberia, in temperatures that dropped below -40. In months of total darkness. No other primate has ever done this. No great ape survives north of a temperate forest. Humans built shelters framed with mammoth bone, insulated with layered hides. They sewed multi-layer clothing. They cached fat-rich meat through winter. They designed tools specifically for ice fishing. The Yana River site sits at 71 degrees north latitude. Rhinoceros horn artifacts, carved ivory, decorated objects. People weren't just surviving there. They were making things, decorating objects. In the dark, in conditions that should have ended them immediately. Then there was Beringia. At the peak of the last glacial maximum, sea levels dropped by around 400 feet. A land bridge appeared between Siberia and Alaska. Not a narrow strip. A subcontinent. Grasslands, rivers, grazing animals. Sometime between 20,000 and 15,000 years ago, humans crossed it. Some groups likely followed the coast in small watercraft, tracing kelp forests rich with food. Others moved inland when ice-free corridors opened as glaciers retreated. However they arrived, they entered a world that had never seen a human being. The Americas were completely untouched. Enormous herds of megafauna with no learned fear. No instinct developed over millions of years to recognize what a group of coordinated hunters meant. That made them easy to hunt, and it made them gone within centuries. But the most staggering thing humans ever accomplished was the Pacific. By 3,000 years ago, Lapita seafarers were pushing east into open ocean. Thousands of miles of water with no land visible. They reached Tonga, Samoa, Fiji. They paused. Then around 1000 AD, Polynesian navigators drove east into the largest ocean on Earth. Hawaii, Easter Island, New Zealand. Every island in the Pacific, found without instruments. No sextant, no charts, no compass. They read star positions specific to different latitudes. They read swell direction and wave refraction caused by islands still below the horizon. A skilled navigator could sense an island's presence through the motion of the hull before anyone saw land. These weren't lucky stumbles across open ocean. They were engineered crossings, planned over generations of accumulated knowledge that no single person could have built alone. What makes that possible isn't individual genius, it's transmission. A Polynesian navigator who crossed 2,000 miles of open ocean didn't figure it out himself. He inherited it. His grandfather's knowledge, his community's accumulated understanding of the sea. The double-hulled voyaging canoe itself was centuries of engineering compressed into wood and rope. When he pushed off from shore, he carried the solved problems of hundreds of generations. That's the thing no other species has ever replicated. A whale follows its migration through instinct, fixed, inherited biologically, unchanging across thousands of generations. A Polynesian navigator follows his route through culture. It compounds. Each voyage adds to the knowledge base. Each generation inherits more than the last, then adds their own layer on top. Food solved the problem of permanence. Every remote exploration required bringing the means of survival. Arctic hunters developed techniques for caching meat through winter, storing enough calories to outlast months of darkness. Pacific navigators loaded their canoes with live animals and cultivated plants, breadfruit, chickens, pigs, dogs. They weren't just crossing water to new places. They were transplanting entire food systems. When they arrived on a remote island, they could establish a food supply within a season. That's what transformed exploration into migration. That's the difference between a scouting voyage and a civilization. They didn't adapt to whatever the land offered. They brought their own systems and rebuilt them wherever they arrived. New Zealand wasn't reached until around 1280 AD, one of the last major landmasses on Earth without a human footprint. Maori ancestors arrived from eastern Polynesia. Within decades, the moa was gone. A flightless bird standing 12 feet tall, gone in less than a century. Madagascar settled around 350 AD. Within 1,000 years, 17 species of giant lemur had vanished. The elephant bird, more massive than any other avian species in history, gone. Mauritius, Réunion, the Canary Islands. Every island humans reached late tells the same story. Arrival. Then a sudden silence in the fossil record where large animals used to be. Remoteness didn't protect those animals. It just delayed the encounter. When humans finally arrived, those species had never developed any fear of us. They had no inherited awareness of what a coordinated hunting group meant. They never got the chance to learn. Nothing else on Earth moved this way. Wolves don't cross oceans. Chimpanzees have never colonized a new continent. The range of a wolf pack is a few hundred square miles. The range of early humans eventually covered every landmass but one. What drove this wasn't intelligence alone. Plenty of animals are intelligent. It was the combination. Language to transmit plans across time and distance. Technology that could be redesigned for each new environment. Social structures tight enough to hold a group together across a dangerous open water crossing. And something genuinely unique to humans. The willingness to move toward the unknown rather than away from it. Other animals flee danger. Humans have always sailed directly toward it. Deliberately, repeatedly, with planning, with purpose. By 1280 AD, when the last Polynesian canoes grounded on New Zealand's shore, humans had reached every climate and every terrain on the planet. Frozen tundra, equatorial jungle, high-altitude steppe, remote island chains scattered across millions of square miles of open ocean, each settlement built on inherited knowledge, refined tools, and the same decision that started all of it. 50 miles of open water. No map, no guarantee anything was there. And the choice to push off anyway. That's not wandering, that's not accident, that's what humans